Two blocks, cross legs, blanket under the shins. Oh, sorry, wrong order. Morning. Cross legs, 2 blocks under the 2 blocks under the bum. That's what it's called, isn't it? A bum. And a blanket underneath the shin. So it's Sukhasana. Morning, morning. Sukhasana. Very simple. There's a gap between the legs and the pelvis in Sukhasana. One of the ways in which you know it's Sukhasana. And sitting up tall with the chest buoyant. Breathing through your nose if you can. Well done for making it in the rain, through the rain. There's several mats still open for people coming in. There's mats at the back, there's mats at the side. It's better to be in here than outside in the rain, says Simon. Exactly right. Maybe I should beckon people in. Come on in. That's true, we might get riffraff. We don't want riffraff. Oh, I did. So aware of the chest, aware of the heart center, aware of just, Saturday vibes. Saturday, to be honest, I'm going to be honest with you now and tell you, that Saturday is my favorite yoga class of the week. Don't tell the other yoga classes. You say that to you say that to all the classes. It's all been recorded as well. Oh no. People. So anyway, Saturday, I like all the class. I love all the classes, but I really love Saturday because it's got the Saturday vibe. It's got the weekend vibe. Yeah, it's something nice about that, isn't it? It's a weekend vibe. I like it because it's the morning as well. I like morning classes. So let's get into that sort of weekend vibe. I hope that it's already begun. And that we bring that into our yoga practice. So it's very, very informal. Morning, Kate. There's spaces around. So we're just going to bring ourselves into the warm glow, the veritable hearth of the heart center, which is peaceful and warm. I've compared it in the past to a log cabin in a forest, and all around there's a storm. There's snow and blizzards. But in the log cabin, it's a glow with candles, and there's a lovely fire going in there. And so it's a beacon. And it's where you want to be. And if you want other people to find it, you just got to keep the fire going. You got to keep the candles lit. What you don't want to do is step out into the storm, because you'll be lost with all the other people lost out in the storm. You want to keep the beacon glowing. So that means staying in the heart, not coming out of the heart. And, if you ever want to help anybody, if you ever feel moved by the suffering of others, then moving into the heart center is how you make this. It's the only way. Not coming out of the heart center is the only way that others may also find that middle in between all the various storms of being someone, and the brain chemistry and thoughts and sociology and psychology and the meteorological events and on and on. So to emphasize the anchoredness in the heart, we're going to simply bring our hands to the heart, to the Atmanjali mudra. You can just call it the Anjali mudra if you like. Atman. Gosh, I don't dare even start talking about what Atman means in various traditions. But it sort of means the here and now locus of what we might feel as ultimate identity within our sort of embodied experience. Anyway, it's a lot more. I could talk a lot about Atman, but I won't. But so Atman, and then plus the word Anjali, which means prayer, Anjali. So we're going to do the practice, the tantric practice of nyasa. Most people who have been into yoga a little bit will have heard of vinyasa, which is the word nyasa, just with a little prefix added on the front. It's not a different word. Nyasa means to place. Vinyasa means a special kind of placement, or it can also mean to not place. So it's, we could debate what that ultimately points to in that sort of practice, vinyasa. But traditionally, it's placing things like mantras, deities, features, geographical features, elements into various parts of the body to essentially to deify the body. So we're just going to place Om in the heart to act as an anchor. So we're going to do that by chanting it 3 times. And the first of those is now. So take a deep breath in. Om. 2 more. And last one, the deepest breath of all. And a few deep breaths at the end of that. Just going with the breath. That's very, very important, very easy, very natural, very Saturday. So it's all about being relaxed. And that's overt in the Yoga Sutras. It's about being relaxed. So interlace your fingers, stretch your arms diagonally downwards and raise them up. As you get about 3/4 of the way up, it's useful to make sure your neck doesn't feel impinged. So a little bit of movement of the neck. And to lightly tone your tummy so that as your arms go back, actually what happens is the lower back lifts up. If you don't tone the tummy, then the whole of the lower back hinges forwards, which is fine. We don't mind an inward curve. In fact, we want an inward curve in the lower back, a lumbar lordosis. But we want also lengthen the muscles. So that's why we tone the tummy. We make sure the head and neck is soft and relaxed and breathing is free. And then we take a big wide circle to release. Palms up in the Jnana Mudra. This is the knowing mudra. Now, the great thing about knowing in yoga is what you need to know. Popular or what? What you need to know is the now. What you need to know is the now. It's the WhatsApp. I never know how to stop the WhatsApp making that noise. It may make that noise again, but eventually will stop. Anyway, so the now is like this, isn't it? Here in the Brighton Buddhist Center, we've got the rain on the glass roof above us. We've got physical sensations, it's magnetic fields, it's gravitational fields, which is space-time. There's temperature, areas of more heat, areas that are cooler in the room. And the body is part of the room. So when we look at, say, areas of heat and coolness throughout the room, we're including the body. There might be a corner of the room as cooler, maybe parts of your body are hotter, other people's bodies, and so on. So there's a field of temperature variation. In physics, of course, fields are just areas where we can mark different areas throughout the field in terms of their relationship to a certain quality, in this instance, temperature. So that's a way of tuning into the greater field, which includes the magnetic field, not just temperature, but the magnetic field, gravitational fields, and so on. Okay, give your fingers a little wiggle. And then change the cross of your legs when you're ready. So the other leg goes in front. And we're going to start with the Jnana Mudra. If you've, I don't know how to stop it doing that. Apart from, I might throw it down the stairs. It might be my only option. I've turned all the volume off.
It's nothing to do with the volume on that.
No, it's the WhatsApp group. That was Catherine Jordan. Hi, Catherine. The yoga WhatsApp group. Anyway, if it keeps doing it, I'll just take it out of the room. Don't know what else to do with it. So this is knowing mudra, jnana or jnana mudra. And so we know everything that's happening. The point is to be receptive to the whole of the field. So we can start with things like temperature, but then there's sound as well. Then there's movements in the field. But remember, what we would normally say, me, myself, and I, is part of that. It's all one. So as St. Augustine said, if you want to know God, he was talking about, we can say, if we want to know the field, the one field of it all together, St. Augustine said, it's like an ocean. Don't try and put the ocean in your cup. Throw your cup into the ocean. So hundreds of ways in yoga tries to point to this. It says, avoid reaching out. Don't get involved in grasping or gripping or grabbing. It says, be relaxed. Be Saturday morning at the Buddhist Center. It says, no need to cling to any descriptives that others give to you or that you have taken on. Descriptives to do with age and gender and physical health and employment status and where you live and on and on. Introvert, extrovert, etc. Again, give the fingers a little wiggle, breathing through the nose. We're going to come out of the cross-legged and we're going to stay in that receptive mode while I put my phone in the corridor. And we're going to come into Adho Mukha Svanasana. It's down-faced dog, Zoomers. Down-faced dog whenever you're ready. This is getting banned. I've turned all the volumes off, but it won't stop making noise, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to turf it out of the room. Good. I buried it under blankets. Okay. So just check your hands are equidistant from the front and the sides of the mat. Enjoy your life if you want. That's just a general tip. And then having checked, make sure your fingers are spread really wide. You lift up and push up through the lower back, through to the pelvis. And then it's just an investigation. The hamstrings obviously get stretched in this pose. Hamstrings are the three muscles on the back of the leg that connect to the sitting bones. So when we're stretching a muscle, what we want the muscle to do is relax into that stretch so that it doesn't get pulled. So how do you get the muscle to relax into the stretch? There are several methods, but one of the most effective is muscular tone on the opposite side. So as you move your pelvis left and right, as you play your way into the stretch, draw your heels, perhaps even just one at a time, investigatively and perhaps repetitively. Draw your heels backwards and feel, if you can, energy or tone going up the front of your thigh and beginning to engage in layers, the quadricep muscles, the front thigh muscles. And for me, despite a pretty long and regular yoga practice, I can't just switch that on. I've got to repeat, I've got to let it go and try again, because it very easily spills into on switches as opposed to off switches. But what we're doing is something more holistic than that. We're engaging fibers from the superficial, near the skin, to the deep.
in a muscle group. We're engaging fibers from the distal to the proximal, from the further away from the main structure to closer. Yeah. Lateral fibers, medial fibers. So concentrate without holding your breath on integrative tone coming through your quadriceps again and again and again. Abhyasa. Like currents were passing through, or like a current passes through a river and moves the water. Currents were passing through, or like waves pass through the ocean and move the water. Upwards currents through your thighs. Well done, everyone. That's a good, jolly good start. We're going to then take dos bloques, which is Spanish, I believe, for 2 blocks. And we're going to place them one atop the other. If you don't have 2 blocks at home, you can improv with blankets, etc. And we're going to lay down on what I call the tummy. And I think most people also call it the tummy. So we're laying down on a tummy, but the blocks are actually on the pelvis. Now, if you find that your pelvis is not happy about that, then you can put a blanket on top. Adjusting your legs can have multiple benefits, including stretching and lengthening muscles that attach to the legs from the pelvis, notably the psoas and the iliacus. So make adjustments, lift and stretch as many times as you find useful, and place your hands by your mid-ribs. Don't hold the breath. So the legs are off the floor, but the chest is on the floor. The hands are by the mid-ribs, and we've stretched the legs back, and the legs are hip-width apart. We're not holding the breath. We're stretching gently within the context of relaxed Saturday yoga. Saturday yoga. It's different to weekday yoga. Weekday yoga, you've got to get your yoga hat on, you've got to get a little frown on, you've got to get it done. But on Saturday yoga, it's all like, hey, Saturday, it's okay. You know, you can have a bowl of shreddies halfway through if you want. Other cereals are available. Push down and lift up. And so the whole body is lifted except the pelvis. So this is Chaturanga Dandasana, very popular with very few people. Elbows in, elbows back, little bit of tone in the tummy, breathing through your nose if you can. From here, we're going to push back up to Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now, some of you have got beautiful long necks, like the neck of a giraffe, and may find that your head can land on the blocks. Many of us won't find that's the case, and we shouldn't push our head down. It's just, if it happens to happen, allow it to happen. But don't force it. Don't grab extra blocks. Don't worry about it on any level. But stretching up to drop down the head is the method. Stretching up to drop down. Okay, that'll do, won't it? That'll do. Come down, sit on your 2 blocks, short end to short end. You can do this just on 1 block if you don't have 2. It would be super plus duper if you had a patika, that is to say, a belt. Has anyone not got a patika in the room? Nice to see you, by the way. More patika. Anyone else patika less? Belts less. Sitting on those blocks, draw the buttock flesh out and back. Oh, you need something. Oh, block. Oh, sorry. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. Your legs are extended out in front of you. Dandasana. Been threatening for a long time to do a Dandasana workshop. I just rather think it might just be me that goes to it. But anyway, I think it'll be really good. Who knows? Maybe I should try. The belt goes around the balls of the feet. You're going to try and escape, Kate. Can't you know we've got snipers on the roof. You won't get out that way. So we've got the belt around the feet, and we're gently pulling without holding the breath. Now again, it depends on how your hamstrings are. For some people, it's a strong hamstring stretch. That may be a tongue twister, a strong hamstring stretch. Try it later if you want.
But again, as before, the quadriceps can come in handy here. The effect is called reciprocal inhibition, but it has to be done yogically, that is, meditatively, enjoyably, in a way that's breath-centered. So we're passing waves, as it were, of influence, waves of influence through the leg, from the knee towards the pelvis. If you can imagine wave after wave, without holding your breath. So you don't want to get tight or tense. It's worth pointing out at this point that yoga, by definition, is action, thoughts, and speech that are not productive of karmic consequences. I'm sorry, that's a big sentence for the morning. Yoga, by definition, is action, thoughts, and speech that are not productive of karmic consequences. Now, what that means is anything that has any bias at all, that does anything at all, will be productive of karmic consequences. Some take you up, some take you down, some are sort of fairly neutral. But yoga says the whole point really is that it's not productive of karmic consequence. In other words, you as a person cannot be here trying to do yoga or trying to not have karmic consequences. It has nothing to do with you as a person, because you as a person is a changing event that's co-created by everything around you, and always comes from a skewed view. Nothing wrong with your point of view or my point of view. It's impossible for a person not to have a skewed view, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. But it's not what we motivate ourselves by. So instead, we let movement trigger a listening experience, a responsive, an opening, a relaxing, a breath-centered and enjoyable. So we start moving and we start enjoying, we start relaxing, we start telling ourselves that it's okay. You could put your first name in front there. It's okay, whatever your name. There's nothing for you to do or not do. It's all right. You can just have the weekend off. There's nothing for you to understand or not understand. You're just not, you just have the weekend off, If you can imagine the sort of avatar of yourself with all its labels, sitting down in a nice comfy sofa. Oh, I don't have to do the yoga. So instead, the yoga is an expression of the power of now, which I've been borrowing from the title of Eckhart Tolle. I know I'm late to the party on that one, but still, I've never read it. Actually, I've got no plans to read it. No, I've heard it's great. I have it on my bookshelf. I've been bought it at least twice by people who've told me it's great. And I'm aware of Eckhart Tolle's work, and he seems to me to be a very, very sweet, trustworthy being, from what I can tell. Now, there's something in his title that makes me think I don't need to read the rest of the book, because the power of now. And I feel that we might have missed that. That now has a power, the power to act, the power to will, the power to know. So if we tune into the now by breathing freely, by being relaxed, by being all Saturday, experimenting this way, experimenting that way, the now starts to flood in, and everything is now. It's not outside of you. It's outside, inside. There's nothing that isn't now. There's nothing that's observing the now that isn't the now. So it's very, very relaxed. And then instead of a person doing the action, the now does the action. It's not, just like when you're dancing and you forget about who you are and you have a brilliant night. That's the power of now. We might say, oh, it's the power of music or particularly good DJ or something. But it's the power of now. Okay, ease out of dandasana. It was wonderful. That's what we're tuning in on, because the power of now is karma-less. Anyway, it's tricky because every time anyone says anything to anyone else, one presumes it's oneself that's supposed to be listening and understanding. We're going to put two blocks, one on top of the other. You might have guessed that by the fact that I put two blocks, one on top of the other. We're going to take two human feet, your own human feet, and we're going to put them on top of the blocks. Now, the reason for this is because now the thigh bones are lower down. It drops the thigh bones down and allows us to contemplate bringing the pelvis forward, still in that meditative mode. We're going to bring the patika around the feet. We're going to breathe easy. So when we're in this investigation, let's think of yoga poses as investigations that are purposed for our disappearance. So investigations that are purposed for our disappearance. Probably worth me saying it again, I think. Investigations that are purposed for our disappearance. So investigations means movement here. Just move around a bit. It's not random movement. It's movement that is purposed for our disappearance. Disappearance means absorption or reabsorption into this moment. Whereas often we rarefy from this moment and we get very stressed about being someone. I'm someone, and you know, I've got all these personal things in my personal life, my personal mandala, family things and work things and social things and personal problems and pet peeves. And that's, you know, and that's ever changing, it's co-created. So when you see that, you start letting go. You start letting go of being somebody, going somewhere. And yoga instead is a karana, an expression of now. So all we have to do as yogis is tune into the now, and physical movement can help with that. Then what begins to happen is we begin to feel we want flow, because flow is the same as non-attachment. And we begin to create flow through investigative movements, including lifting and moving and toning without holding the breath. So we're going to begin toning the front thighs without holding a breath. So it's a sort of layer by layer, loving, like an artist will put layer after layer of paint on her canvas until a beautiful painting emerges. Layer after layer of movement, no pressure whatsoever, drawing up through the quadriceps and releasing the hamstrings. It's possible that for some people, the hamstrings are very, very open, and sitting up actually might make the lower back feel tighter. So by all means, if you feel your back would be softer by letting the pelvis go further forwards, then do. And if you feel like holding your, walking down the patika would be useful, then do. Most of us won't feel like that, but I reckon 2 or 3 might. So breathing, 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 investigating, relaxing, relaxing. Yoga, the Hatha texts tell us staitilya, chill out, relax. Well, actually, that's mostly in Patanjali. And the yoga text, the Hatha yoga text say shanai, shanai. Like, hey, dude, take it easy. That's my translation of shanai. Hey, dude, take it easy. Okay, wunderbar. Come out nice and easy. We're going to lay down on our backs because it's Saturday, it's treat day. And we're still going to use dos bloques, 2 blocks, and we're going to place those 2 blocks simply underneath the pelvis. So that's very, very simple. Here, the tailbone comes off the end of the blocks. The tailbone. I think everyone, I'm almost 100% sure that everyone knows where their tailbone is. Back in the old days, 60s, 70s, and 80s, carpets were made of less good quality material in most homes, and so were socks. And so the combination made many a person slip on their stairs and land on their tailbone. And so I have a theory that everyone knows where their tailbone is, because if you're of a certain age,
At some point, you would have slipped on your socks, probably when you're a kid, and landed on your tailbone. Anyway, you never forget it once you've done it. Take a breath or two. Now we can stretch our arms up and over the head. You might want to wave them side to side, just in, celebrating life and breathing easy. You might also want to move your knees side to side. Any intuitive movement, again, is the power of now. There's an argument for saying it would be a much better word to use for the poses and movements we make in yoga if we use the word karana. Karana, that comes from the root kri, just as karma and kriya do. And karana means expression, expressive action. So it's expressing the power of now. Now has 4 powers. The power to know. If you surrender to the now, the knowing comes through. The power to will or to want. So a desire to move and to respond. And the power to actually respond are the 3 main powers. It has the 4th, which is the power of autonomy. In other words, normally thoughts, feelings, emotions are not autonomous. They're co-created by our environment. But the power of now, if you can surrender to it like a field, not a thought, but a field that you give to, like you give to a kiss or a hug or, whatever you give, you like to give to. Great. Bring your arms forwards and let's see if we can flip those blocks 1 height higher. So that might mean walking your feet in, lifting your heels up. I think if you lift your heels up, you should be able to get enough height for those blocks to go across the back of the pelvis. Obviously, adjust intuitively. And that might take multiple adjustments because, like tuning in an old-fashioned radio, I'm fortunate enough to have 2 old-fashioned radios, both of which belonged to Stanley Slater. That was my granddad. And when you tune the radios in, although they do have stickers that Granddad Slater put on there to tell you where Radio 2 and Radio 1 was back then, those stickers were relevant to him living in Wimbledon and don't work for me in Brighton. So you have to tune and then tune in different directions. So similarly, when you're making adjustments, you might have to make lots of little tuning ins. If you're feeling really, happy, exuberant, you might dare to raise a leg. You might think, I do feel exuberant, but I don't want to raise a leg. Well, that's fine as well. If you raise a leg, you might want to play with the foot. Dorsiplantar flexion. What I will recommend is that none of us hold our breath. That we really relax. You can do things like bending the knee, the freedom is there. It's Saturday yoga, it's weekend yoga. So it's very informal, it's very chilled. It's like holiday yoga. Do yoga on holiday, it's just different. It's a different thing. Okay, swap and raise, the other. Similarly, dorsiplantar, circling, whatever comes, bending, extending if you want. But breathing. Yoga works from the theory that everything is everything. It's not actually a theory, it's a direct experience. But biologists agree, particle physicists agree, oceanographers agree that everything's connected to everything else. Astrophysicists agree. But the difference in yoga is you surrender to that reality as a reality here and now. And it's beautiful. Let's bring that leg down when we're ready. Walk the feet in, lift the heels up. Tone the tummy before lifting up. So that means draw your tummy in and pull your ribs forwards. Then take the blocks out. Slowly come down. Keep a block for under your head. Take a deep breath that's audible. Maybe 2 or 3 or 4. And just observe the lower back settling itself. Observe the lower back settling itself. With deep, deep, deep breaths. So selflessness is emphasized in yoga, not as something you sort of religiously cling to, or as ironically, a person trying to be selfless is a, oxymoron. But selflessness is a direct observation of whatever arises now. Sensations in the body. Our instinct is to say, that's me, mine. That's my comfort, that's my discomfort. But it's co-created. The air pressure affects us. The solar winds affect us. The things we've read affect us. The people we've spoken to affect us. Our brain chemistry is related to all of those things. And that affects our bodies as well. The way we hold our posture, on and on, it's all co-created. When you're ready, let's raise one leg up. Doesn't matter which one. You get to choose. It's a free-for-all. And move it in a way that's a really relax. You can move your foot, you can move the leg. Just, imagine that we were all really good friends, because we are. Anyway, I love you all. And imagine you're in a place like the Buddhist center, where, activities range from meditating on loving kindness, chit-chatting over a cup of tea in a digestive, making the shrine look pretty, and that's that's kind of the thing. And people eat off, apart from that, they eat baked potatoes a lot here at the Brighton Buddhist Center. Seems to be a thing. And that's it. So it's a very chilled place to be, very chilled. Heel in, toes out, cross that leg over the other leg. Lift the foot that's on the floor, off the floor. Plunge through the inside of the leg, so the gap between the legs is a little inverted triangle. Or I've taken recently to going over the top. I guess it's always been a bit of a habit of mine in one way or the other, going over the top, but over the top of the leg. Now that is stronger. So you might not want to do that, well, quite understandably. Yogis are people who know what enough is. Anyone who's studied the yamas and the niyamas in the Yoga Sutra will know that in the niyamas we have santosha. Santosha is usually translated as contentment. Tosha comes from a root tush, which means to enjoy, to be happy. Santosha, therefore, means with happiness, with enjoyment. It's quite a lovely word, santosha. So the yogi is someone who's defined by being very, very easily pleased. Even if you give them a cup of tea with relatively cheap, happy shopper tea bags, they still may very much appreciate the warmth of the tea, even if the flavor is rather awful. So, yogis are appreciative, looking for the attitude of gratitude, which conditions surrender, doesn't it? We're just like, this is nice. This is nice. There's nothing else it's just a simple sensation, nothing else I need. Just a simple sensation. If you're ready to release, we've got another leg to do. We better crack on with it, I suppose. So raise up your other leg, and similarly, dorsiplantar flex, bend, extend, but relaxed, playful, really informal. Like it should be really, really informal yoga. It's not really a sort of trying. We don't really want earnestness. That's not a quality we want in yoga. You don't even want people to be particularly conscientious, like really, someone comes and they're really conscientious. What we want is happiness here and now in the way we move, and a feeling of santosha, contentment. When you feel ready after moving your foot in any way that the power of now expresses, then turn the heel in, toes out, cross that leg over the other, lift the foot that's on the floor off the floor and plunge on through, either through that gap or less likely, I'm sure, over the top of the leg. And then see if you can find a sensation that for a moment knocks you off your tracks. We're so habituated to operating within descriptives. Our mornings are a little bit like something like this. We wake up in the morning, first thing, we wake up, and there's a moment or two, I don't know if you recognize this, there's a moment or two when you don't know where you are or who you are. You got no idea. Just a moment. And then you start remembering, oh, I'm blah, blah, and all the patterns and habits kick in. And it's as if we get out of bed, and instead of getting into our slippers, we get onto little train tracks. And those train tracks are the sort of habitual way in which we've been conditioned to operate by myriad, endless factors. And then we go through our day, chugging along our little train tracks, being ourselves, expressing our opinions, coming into harmony with people who have similar opinions. We like them, they're great. Clashing with people who have different opinions on completely different railway tracks. But yoga, what yoga wants to do is knock you off your tracks, whatever the tracks are. And it does that by finding sensations that are rich. I hope you can find, can you? And then allowing them, breathing, surrendering to them, letting them transport you into this field, this tracklessness. One of the ways in which Buddhism expresses the experience of awakening is by describing it as trackless. They say the Buddha was trackless. He's the trackless one. That's just about the coolest thing I ever heard. Okay, let's release. Stay open, happy. Saturday, but any movement. It's just really relax, It's like being stoned without any of the cravings for food and without any of the paranoia that sometimes accompanies. Just, the sort of Big Lebowski kind of vibe going on. No, from what I've heard from someone who once told me what it was like to be stoned. Let's roll over onto our side and come up from the side. But the good bits of being stoned, or the good bits of being drunk, not the bad bits, not the headaches, not the embarrassing things we say, but just the relaxed bit. Now, speaking of being relaxed, as we sit up, we might as well chill out. We might as well chill out. Pop our hands behind our head. It's Saturday, gang. Let's put our feet up. Lean on back and raise your feet up so your toes are level with your relaxed and happy eyes as you breathe into this incredibly relaxing pose. Incredibly relaxing pose. Breathing through your nose, keeping the angle pretty broad. Trembling is acceptable. Sometimes we're so relaxed, we tremble. Okay, bend your knees, hug your legs, lift your lumbar, and lighten your lumbar with a little bit of lovely movement this way and that. Breathing through your nose. Jaw soft, eyes soft, rocking this way, rocking that way, breathing without holding the breath. Now just superimpose, if you will, for me, onto your abdominal area, 4 points. You can imagine them. Some people have got great visualization. But I realized that when I was teaching a yoga holiday in Scotland, once somebody told me, I was talking about tantric visualizations, and this fella that was there, I can't remember his name, but
he said, oh, I can't visualize. And I didn't realize. And then I looked into it, and I found lots and lots of people can't visualize. So if you can't visualize, you can feel, just imagine or feel 4 points around the belly. You can even press your finger into 4 points, like the 4 points of a square, and then feel the after effect of that pressure. One way or the other, we want to map 4 points onto the abdomen. Okay. Now we're going to come either onto our forearms or onto our hands directly, depending on how your wrists are with this. We're going to stay, if we can, with those 4 points on the abdomen. It's to do with the connection, I think, between the conscious and subconscious minds, because of course everyone has a subconscious mind and everyone does visualize. But whether the pathways are really easy. My pathways between my conscious and subconscious seem to be very, very easily open. I visualize easily. So it just so happens, just out of interest, that my 4 points tend to be made of 4 points of green light. It doesn't mean anything. It's just you might have your own version of whatever arises naturally. I didn't plan it. It just comes like that. Or just feeling those 4 points. Now, while you feel those 4 points, I want you to feel them stretching and moving. If you can imagine 4 points, and the change of the rectangle as you step 1 foot out. So it's just pulling the bottom outer edge of the square or the rectangle out, and then you bring that foot in and do the same the other. Try and imagine that the shape is changing. And we're going to do that 2 more times on each side. If you need a rest during this, just please don't have a rest. Okay. And once you've done 3 on each side, it's your happy time when you get to kneel and sit up and breathe. Well done. Take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 deep breaths. There's lots of sensations in the body. Tingling sensations. You can put a block or blocks up to 3, even between the heels and buttocks. Or you can sit in a different position if kneeling is just really, 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 really horrible for you. Because I love you and I want you to be happy and well. So breathe through your nose one way or the other. Jaw soft, eyes soft. And perhaps a little rolling. Really, it's really about the breath. The breath should be open, the breath should be expressive, the breath should be natural. If you do yoga really, really well, it gradually feels like clouds are thinning and the day is brightening. From the inside to the outside, it feels like rain is slowing down. Great. Stretch your legs out in front of you again. And imagine those 4 points. Don't worry, we're not doing the same pose again. Don't worry. Some of you looking worried. Don't worry. Let me rest assured. We're going to do a worse one. It's the full boat pose. Let's lean the body back by 30 degrees, raise the legs up by 90 degrees. Oh, Jim, thought you said we were friends earlier. Oh, breathe into it. It's okay. It's called boat pose, so don't worry if the boat capsizes. I love you. Whatever's happening, I love you. I love you. I love you. And just keep feeling love in the room and breathe into it. Play it out. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Kate, you can feel the love. You can feel the love in the room. Jaws soft, eyes soft. Some boats just gently sinking into the water now. Yeah, some people looking at me with appealing eyes, like, please, Jim, please make it stop. Okay, I'll make it stop. Bend your legs, lift your chest, breathe through your nose. A little bit of movement, a little bit of calmness, a little bit of lift, a little bit of love. Breath is everything. Take deeper breaths, take deeper breaths. And just rock it out, just rock it out. Now, we've been talking lots about it being the weekend, about being relaxed and being comfortable. So now we take a blanket. Yes, we do. And we put that blanket down on our yoga mats to make life oh so sweet. So when you're ready, open up your blanket, fold it up real neat. And you're going to put it on and your yoga mat to make your life oh so sweet. My recommendation is you fold it into quarters. And then you lay on it. We're going to use a brick block, although you can use one of the other kind of blocks, no problem. And you can improvise as well. I mean, you know, back in the day when I first started Zooming, it was back in the days of the C word, can't mention it, COVID. Oh, I did mention it. Anyway, back then, we started doing the Zoom classes, and we presumed that people didn't have equipment. I'm pretty sure the people have now, but, you know, you can use whatever. You know, there's lots of things you can use at home. Just something to raise your hands onto. Anyway, you're up on your forearms, you're resting on your blanket. It's oh so comfortable. We're luxuriating. Move your pelvis left and right. As you move, add traction on your forearms. So you move left and right, and you've got traction. And you're massaging your lumbar, which is really, really good. Really, really good. But not just massaging the lumbar, but stretching. As if you could gently prise one vertebrae a little further off from the one beneath it. And of course, in between the vertebrae, we have intervertebral discs. And if you can just draw a little bit of space between each vertebral body, then the discs begin to have a little bit more space. If there's any very slight bulging, the disc can work its way back in. And it can even help with the hydration of the discs as well. So moving side to side like this. Stretch your legs back to stretch the other end of the muscle that we can feel we're stretching in the tummy, the other end of the psoas muscle that extends to the top of the inner thigh. And then reach for your brick block. Can be a brick, can be a purple brick, can be a regular brick. Turn your thighs by lifting and landing them a few times. Turn your thighs to face straight down towards the floor. Avoid turning your heels in. And just in case you're not sure, let's turn the heels in deliberately, first of all, until they touch. Just notice if your back feels a little tighter. Now let them release. Just notice if your back feels a little bit more released. That's why we don't turn them in. Stretch forwards. I quite like pressing into the block and see if I can stretch my tummy a little further forwards and then raise the legs up without turning the heels in. Breathe through your nose. Imagine those 4 points, defining 4 points on a rectangle that we superimposed onto the abdominal tissue. So 2 points are pretty low down, right? Really near the front of the pelvis, really low down, towards the lymph nodes. And 2 points are higher up. We can feel those 4 points. And those higher up points actually come up out towards, into the ribs as the ribs move in towards the breastbone. So 4 points. Now, if you can just stay a couple of breaths more, that'd be great, because I'd love it if we can now also imagine buoyancy or support. Don't hold your breath, don't try too hard, or don't try hard at all. Just feel it directly, a support from the pelvic floor, which is a sort of energetic nudging energy into the central channel along the front of the spine. Okay, down you come, everyone. One hand on top of the other. Rest your head on your hands. The Makarasana, breathing deep. So Makara is a crocodile, and sometimes this pose is called Makarasana, which is that's a mythological creature that the Lord Vishnu rides on. But either way, we're just resting. Not sure why it's called crocodile. I don't think crocodiles put their little hands forwards, do they, and rest their little, well, they've got big heads, actually. Tuck under your toes while you're resting. Push your heels back with your toes on the floor, and your legs will lift and stretch back. Do it several times until you feel there's more space in the front of your thighs. Come up onto your elbows when you're ready and stretch your tummy forwards again. Don't hold the breath. Stretch your tummy forward several times. Abhyasa, again and again. And many of us will feel we've got a lot we can do by stretching the tummy from the lower points through to the upper points again and again. One or two might feel that they can stretch back and hold either one leg at a time or both legs together. The ideal holding point is the shins, but many of us will find that the ankles or feet will have to do. As I say, you can do this one leg at a time, or you can do it both legs together. And then it's the power of now. So in other words, you really feel and then let that feeling express itself. So you can have knowledge that's not learned from a book, that's not been told to you, but that you feel as you breathe, as you feel into the body, as you melt, as you get into the richness. And this is when yoga teachers give you instructions. That's just coming from the power of now as they're experiencing. Okay, come down slow and calm. Rest one hand on top of the other. Love to hear you take a deeper breath. Maybe a sigh or two. Yeah, really letting those breaths happen now. Really letting those breaths happen now. Jaw relaxed. Eyes relaxed. Now, usually after a strong pose like that, a lot of people begin to slip towards a slightly catatonic mental state if you leave them any longer than, well, it's already started actually, isn't it? So come up. Let's not go into the catatonic mental state. We're going to come up onto our elbows. We're going to do it now. And we're going to pretend at least to ourselves that we're enthusiastic for another go at that same pose. Just say to yourself, I can't wait. Come on, Jim, stop talking. I just want to get into Dhanurasana, the bow pose. So stretch your tummy multiple times. Get into it, get into it. I love stretching my tummy. I guess I should get out more, but I just love it. Stretching the tummy. We could do it for ages. What I've always loved about yoga is the timelessness. You can get into small things and just kind of keep exploring, keep exploring. Stretch the legs back similarly to what we did before, to open up the muscle that extends to the inner thighs and through the deep belly. And if you're ready, again, one at a time is fine, or both together. You can some people even try slinging them both up together like I just did. I quite like that. Breathing easy, lifting up when you're ready. Breathing through the nose if you can. The experience is meditative, and you meditate, meaning absorbed. And as you feel absorbed into the spinal column, we can imagine and feel it deepening, lifting, opening in ways that are timeless, outside of time. Okay, well done. Come down. Well done, well done. One hand on top of the other. If your back aches a little bit after that, just don't worry. It's all right. Don't worry about it. What it is muscles. You've heard of those. Muscles. Muscles being activated that don't get a lot of activation. And there may be a little protest there. That's, because this is breaking us out. It's pushing us off our tracks into the trackless. And when habituated, habituation means, a sense of resistance to doing something else. So it's normal to find habituated habits are a little resistant. One more time? Question mark? I'll answer for you. Yes. Come on up. Do it now. Do it now before your mind does any complaining. Quick, before the complaining. Stretch your legs back. Get the length. Get the length. Take hold. Come on, before your mind gets any complaining. Yes. Yeah. because there's definitely little bit of internal moaning I heard then. And lift up and feel the sensations. Feel the sensations. And, it's perfectly normal to moan. If we've been brought up in the British Isles, particularly normal. Breathing into it. Nothing wrong with a good old British moan. Driving the spine in and lifting up calmly. Come on down. Well done. Sorry, it sounded like a game show. Come on down. Rest and breathe. Really let go. I promise that was the last one of this morning's class. So deep breaths, expressive breaths. So it can take quite a lot of force, you can say, or hatha in Sanskrit, to knock us off our tracks. It takes a lot to get a rocket into orbit, doesn't it? It takes a tremendous amount of energy to get a rocket into orbit because it has to break away from the gravitational pull of the Earth. Similarly, habituations often need quite a lot of rocket fuel, as it were. Roll over to face towards me, partly so I know we're still all getting on. I enjoyed that. There's quite a lot of faces that did this sort of, quite enjoyable. Anyway, bend the leg you're laying on, extend the other leg from the inner groin, lightly tone the tummy, and lift and turn, and just get into it, feel your own thing going on. It's beyond thought, unmani. Unmani is a word that means beyond thought. Unmana is the same word, different declension, but same word, meaning beyond thought. So beyond thought or before thought, like when you first wake up, there's a moment before you know who you are or where what your name is. That's before, that's trackless. Or you can do it like going on a bear hunt. Kate told me the full thing the other day. I'm going on a bear hunt. And you go, I can't remember the order again, but I think you go through squishy mud, squish, squish, squish or something. And then you go through this long grass, swish, swish, swish. Right? Now, the long grass is a bit like thought, And then you come out the other side and we think maybe you're on a beach and there's a cave there and that's where the bear is. But this is in this metaphor, going through thought to the other side, going beyond thought. So that doesn't mean not having thought. It means not getting stuck in it, not getting caught in it, not getting trapped in the long grass, as it were. So you keep moving. When thought arises, you keep moving through it. You're not getting caught in any particular thought, like any particular blade of grass. Top leg on top of the bottom leg, curl up from the side with a little push. Well done, Janet. And then on the other side, still facing towards this side of the room. Bend the leg you're laying on. Extend the psoas, which is connected to the top of the inner thigh of the lower leg, iliac psoas, which is, everything is everything. So attitude, beyond thought, because thought's very, very sticky. Huh? You can get really stuck in thoughts, but you've got to just move through it like it's long grass, just keep moving through it. And you'll come out the other side, and that's unmani, beyond thought. When you're not caught up in thought, then the mind is open, and that's when the power of now expresses. That's when yoga expresses. It's called pratibha, and inner light shines. That's a pratibha. When ready, tum-tum drawn in, lifting, turning, elbows, forearms, and wrists. There's a lot. The body is held together, of course, by layer upon layer of interdependent fascia, which is semi-fluid. It's an unusual kind of substance, fascia, because it's semi-fluid. So we want to move the fascia of the lower back and the middle back and restore it to its fluid state.
It's a bit like custard. Custard can be solid or fluid. If you hit custard fairly fast, then it's solid. It's got a sort of resistance. But if you were saying, this is not a possible scenario, but if you were standing on a vat of custard, you would slowly sink into it. A delicious scenario, I think you'll agree. But if you ran over the vat of custard, you wouldn't sink into it. It responds like a solid. So similarly with fascia, it can be like a solid or like a liquid. We want it to come into this liquid by playing with it, by experimenting with it, by pausing with it and sinking, as it were, letting it resolve into its fluid state. Okay, top leg on top of the bottom leg, curl up from the side. Siddhasana. Siddhasana is a seated position. If you can sit in it, a block is useful. Yeah, a cork block, wooden block, whatever. They're brick-sized blocks, but you can use these kind of blocks as well, but have the short end facing forwards and a couple of them. We draw the buttock flesh out and back and sit up really tall. Breathe if we can through our noses. There's a lot of energy that we've moved. We're now going to distribute it equally throughout the body so that there are no points of bias. When we talk about non-attachment, it means not grasping anything as mine more than anything else or not mine. And the positive way of saying that is flow. So we're going to do the Salung Tulkur for the Vyana Vayu, the all-over energy. It involves imagining 3 channels, 2 either side and 1 down the center. And breathing into the point at the pelvic floor where we imagine those 3 channels co-terminate. Okay. And then we're going to hold our breath there at that area of the pelvic floor. We're going to hold it. And while we hold it, we imagine it like a sort of ball of energy. And we take the following actions. Okay, so here's a quick demonstration of breathing in little steps, holding the breath, and then taking the actions while holding the breath. Here's what it looks like. Then you breathe out as if you're breathing out through all the pores of your body. I did 5, which is quite a lot to hold your breath. You can do 3 if you feel you're going to pop, then do 3 instead. So it's for I think you'll feel energy distributed everywhere. And you can see that this bit, when you clap your hands, that's to make the energy. And then you bath with that energy. You collect it in your hands and just have a jolly good bath. Okay. So let's do that. Breathing and rebreathing, breathing in steps down to the pelvic floor, and then holding the breath and then taking the actions. Let's do that now. When you breathe out, it's like breathing out through all the pores of the body, every single part of the body, crown of the head, soles of the feet, everywhere. And then natural deep breaths. It's traditional then to rest in what Tibetans call Rigpa, which roughly translates to the Sanskrit word vidya, which is sort of resting in pure knowing. Like, just receptive, just open, not clinging to anything in particular, letting thoughts come and go, moving through thoughts like long grass. Just keep moving through, not getting caught. Nothing for a person to do or not to do. It doesn't matter.
We're going to be laying down on our back. No, that's what it's called, isn't it? Back. When we're ready. And we're ready about now. It's a beautiful atmosphere here at the BBC with it raining. It's lovely. If you're thinking, yeah, it's lovely atmosphere, but I don't have to walk home and through it. Sripada is doing a meditation at 11, so you could just wait around. Do that if you wanted. Stay dry. Oh, they lied to us again. Always. It's clearing. By the time we go out, I predict. It's going to be dry, isn't it, when we leave? Jackie and I predict, we're your optimistic weather forecasters. We could do that, Jackie. We could do a whole new thing, an optimistic weather forecast. Yeah, that's true. But I think they'd enjoy it. They'd enjoy the optimism. Palms face up, shoulder blades scooted under. Eyes closed. There's a song by perhaps one of the ultimate hippies, Donovan. And the lyrics go, first there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is. Which is a great song. It's got lots of other hippie lyrics about butterflies shedding their skin and, oh, the caterpillar sheds its skin and finds the butterfly within, on and on. But the point is, yoga's like that. First there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is, means we start with the beginner's mind. Then we start to realize that there's nothing in particular to cling to. Everything, in a sense, is empty. So it seems like there is no self, there is no other. And then everything comes back just as it was. You know, the personality's got its neuroses, it's got its cravings. But this time, the mind is lighter. Everything's just as it was before. Craving's still there, aversion is still there. But we're not caught up in it. Before, we were attached to various phenomena, as if those phenomena somehow were ourselves. Now those phenomena still remain, but instead we identify with the awareness of them rather than of the objects in awareness. Everything's as it was before. There's just been a little shift. Allow a little movement, perhaps a little wiggle of your toes, perhaps a little movement of your fingers, perhaps some stretches, natural stretches. All easy, natural. When you're ready, roll over onto your side after bending your legs and lay as comfortably as you can on your side, facing towards this side of the room. Knees up, tummy soft. In your own time, roll again and face towards this side of the room. Again, knees drawn up, tummy soft. Letting in a bit of light and color, taking some stretches. And when you're ready, bringing yourself up from the side. Opening the door because Jackie's prediction has come true. The rain hath indeed stopped. Bring your hands to prayer. If you agree with these following words, you can say Om at the end if you want. May any benefit that we've gained in our acting in this way be shared for the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Thanks for coming. Thanks very much for your time. Appreciate you, Zoomers. 1,000 kisses to you. Mwah. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you. See you soon. Thanks a lot.